Please welcome to the stage Julio Rivera, founder and CEO, Liberate Meditation.
Do you ever get so critical about yourself, about something that you said or did, and spin off into loops about how you could be more and how you could do more? I often feel this way, and I often get trapped in it. And to break out of this, I have a practice that I do to remember my ancestors and the gifts that they've given me to break out of that. So this past December, my great-grandmother passed away. And during her funeral, I had the time to reflect on our interactions growing up. And what I can remember is that anytime I would enter in the room, she always had this smile and always had a lot of energy when I came into the room. And I don't speak fluent Spanish, so we never really had a conversation together, yet she always presented herself and showed up in the same exact way. And so the gift that she gave me was she reminds me that no matter what I do or no matter what I don't do, I'm always loved and I'm worthy of that love. So in this brief meditation practice that we're going to do, we're going to focus on the breath and then bring in an ancestor and contemplate on a gift they have given us. So if you don't mind in joining me in sitting up in your chair and getting comfortable, placing your hands on your knees, and I invite you, if you're comfortable, in closing your eyes. And we're going to take 3 big, deep breaths, inhaling through the nose and exhaling out of the mouth together first. So if you can join me, inhaling through the nose and exhaling out of the mouth. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling out of the mouth. One last time, inhaling through the nose and exhaling out of the mouth. And now just letting the breath return to its natural state. We are using the physical sensations of the breath as an anchor to this present moment. So if you find that your mind has wandered off into thought, just bring your attention back to the breath. Coming back into this present moment. And now I invite you to bring into this space an ancestor, a visualization of somebody in your life who has transitioned from the physical body to spirit. They could be a part of your family or not, but in some way or shape or form have supported you in being here today. Once you have this visualization, I ask you to contemplate, what have they given you? What wisdom have they imparted onto you? And as we bring this meditation to a close, I invite you to set an intention to remind yourself of this gift today and throughout the week. So if you can bring your attention to your hands on your knees, the feet against the ground, coming back into this space, and when you're ready, opening your eyes. Thank you for joining me in that. I find that it is so important as Black, Latinx, and Indigenous, and people of color that we give ourselves these messages that we are loved and that we're here and we're worthy of being here. So in September of 2015, I turned 26, and I finally got the promotion to senior iOS engineer that I worked so hard day and night for. I was leading a team of engineers, and we were building an iPhone app for a major retail brand. I was finally making six figures. I had an apartment on Wall Street, and I was in a relationship. On the outside, I had everything, and yet in the inside, I was drowning from this abusive inner voice that was reminding me constantly how insecure, insignificant, and unhappy I really was. Ever since I was 12, I had a passion for programming, and for the first time in my life, I wanted to have nothing to do with it. Have you ever been so lost that every day you would wake up questioning yourself, why am I here? What is my purpose? And so this unsettling feeling, plus combined with an overwhelming amounts of stress and anxiety, resulted in me resorting to drugs and alcohol to fill a very deep void for a brief period of time. And one day I looked in disgust at the mirror and said, "You're a failure. You're unworthy. This is not the values that your parents raised you with, and this is not the brother that your younger brother and sister deserve." And it was in that moment that I decided that this inner voice isn't what's going to help me get through this. I need to develop something that's more compassionate. And as many millennials are doing these days, I then decided to download a meditation app called Headspace. And it was only till I decided that I would commit to meditating with this app every day that I started to notice changes in how I managed my stress and my anxiety. But I got stuck, and I got really frustrated about getting stuck. And this fueled a hunger for me to understand and learn more about where did mindfulness teachings actually come from. And so I then tried out different meditation groups and different meditation centers in New York City, and landed on one that completely changed my life. This was a Sangha, or a Buddhist community, dedicated only for people of color. The experience that I had there was very different from the experiences that I had meditating in predominantly white spaces. I can remember walking in the room, seeing all these beautiful black and brown faces, and as an Afro-Latino, seeing all of this, it made me feel like I was back home with family. I felt a sense of calmness and ease come over me that I never felt before. And this safety in the room allowed me to be vulnerable. Vulnerable about my struggles with constantly having to work hard to prove to my parents that their struggles with being immigrants coming to America, that wasn't in vain. And that the constant need to set higher and higher goals for myself, yet the inability to slow down and actually be proud of myself, was burning me out. It was killing me. And so this safety in the room allowed me to be vulnerable and connect deeply with others, which left me feeling empowered, that I could actually change the relationship to my suffering, and a feeling of hope that I could feel actually joy in this lifetime. And then a scheduling conflict happened, and I could no longer go. So I started to look online for resources for people of color, and I was shocked that I didn't find anything meditation related. And I talked to others and was surprised also that they struggled to they struggled as well and shared the same sentiment. And so then a light bulb went off. Why not just use my background in mobile development to be of service to our communities, and to create a simple app to help my meditation practice and others' meditation practice. So in February, we soft-launched our first version of the app with only 3 guided meditations and 20 people. And then when I looked the following week, I saw that 150 people had signed up on the app, and I was shocked. I was like, where are all these people coming from? Why were they using Liberate? And when I reached out, I spoke to predominantly Black women, and the stories that I heard were consistent. A lot of the source of their stress and anxiety was coming from comments that they received in predominantly white workspaces. Comments about their hair, the way they talked, their body, how they didn't fit into the culture. And that these constant comments left them feeling unworthy. And one woman even used the word invisible, that she felt invisible walking through her workspaces and social settings. And being an empath, this actually pissed me off, and it also made me feel a lot of pain. And there was a sense of urgency that, okay, well, maybe Liberate can create guided meditation specifically for microaggressions. And that's exactly what we did when we launched in May on iOS and Android. And we received a lot of attention because of this focus. And amidst all the great reviews, there was one comment in particular that really triggered me and also gave me a good time to reflect. Why do people of color need their own meditation app? Still triggers me. Yeah. So I had an experience this past June that really gave me the clear answer to that question. I went to a conference called Soul Work, where therapists and social workers of color gathered together to learn more about how racial trauma impacts our communities. And one speaker in particular that was there, her name is Robin DiAngelo, and she authored White Fragility. And she gave a talk directed at the white people in the room, the white allies in the room. And by the end of this talk, I noticed that my chest was tight and my throat was tight. So I slowed down with a brief meditation practice and really asked, well, what was this all about? And then all this fear and shame arose. To admit something. So as my hand was trembling, I grabbed the mic and I shared with the group. I have walked through spaces most of my life feeling superior to other people of color because of growing up in predominantly white neighborhoods and having different access to wealth and education. I've cut off people because I thought they weren't good enough for me. I've cut off people because I thought they wouldn't help me advance in making more money in my career. I cut off people because I thought by hanging around them, they would prevent me from being accepted in the white circles I desired to be so a part of. I've cut off friends, I've cut off family members, and I've cut off loved ones, and I'm sick of cutting people off. And then as the overflow of tears came, 2 brothers came up and held me and told me it was okay to feel this way because they had gone through the same thing. This experience completely changed me because I noticed 3 things afterwards. I became much more aware of when the thoughts of superiority arose, which was great because I could habituate a new way of being, such as being kind. Second, I became much more compassionate about the inner voice that said I wasn't worthy enough, or the voice that said I'm more superior than others. Because I learned that that voice is internalized oppression, colonialism, and racism, and that's not actually me. And last, I became much more open-hearted to people of color and listening to their stories and feeling it in my body, their stories of suffering. This also showed me the massive opportunity that Liberate has, that this is not only just an app, but a movement to support and empower people of color on their path of healing. What if there was a platform that provided spaces, safe spaces for people of color to have an opportunity to slow down, learn how to work with the mind and heart, and have an opportunity to heal? What if there was a platform that helped people develop deep connections with other people of color doing this inner work, so that when they faced microaggressions, that they knew that they weren't alone in their suffering? And what if there was a platform that facilitated healing in such a way that we had conversations more about what does life look like without the oppression? What does life look like when we move from surviving to thriving? So really, my message today was, let's begin this work of healing. There are many indigenous practices of healing intergenerational and racial trauma, but I think that meditation is a great supplemental practice. Yes, I'd love for you to download Liberate, but starting a practice of 5 minutes a day, I think is perfect. And once you have a practice, looking at the ways in which our thoughts and behaviors uphold the systems that oppress us. I also believe it begins with solidarity, not just solidarity between people of color and white allies and white people, but also within ourselves. Because I really feel if we can move from having conversations around and there being oppression Olympics to conversations where we're really listening to each other, we can really create more spaces for us to heal. As Bell Hooks said, beloved community is formed not by the eradication of difference, but by its affirmation. By each of us claiming our identities and cultural legacies that shape who we are and how we live in this world. Thank you.